Two people came into my emergency room on the same afternoon with the same complaint: heavy, aching legs that gave out halfway to the mailbox. One of them I sent home with a walking plan. The other I would not let leave the building. Same symptom, two completely different problems, and telling them apart is the whole game. Because after 60, my legs feel heavy is not one condition. It is three separate ones, and the fruit and supplement videos never tell you which of the three is actually yours. So in the next few minutes, I will show you the 60-second test that tells them apart at your own kitchen table, and the one pattern that means call your doctor this week, not next month. I'm Dr. Tom. Most of my career was spent as a board-certified emergency physician in a packed U.S. ER, and legs like the ones I just described walked through my doors constantly. Older folks who had slowly, quietly given up walking to the corner, climbing their own stairs, standing long enough to cook a meal, and almost every one of them had been handed the same story. It's just age. Take it easy. Maybe try a pill. Maybe try compression stockings. Take it easy. That's the advice that quietly costs people their independence, because the legs that get rested are the legs that get weaker. Here is the reframe I want to plant in your head before we go one step further, because it changes everything about what you should do tonight. Heavy, tired, cramping, cold, or aching legs after 60 almost always come down to one of three plumbing problems. Problem 1 is your arteries, the pipes carrying fresh blood down into your legs. Problem 2 is your veins, the pipes carrying used blood back up. And problem 3 is the pump that moves the blood through both, which is not just your heart. Three different problems, three different mechanisms. And here's the part nobody says out loud. The food that helps one of them does almost nothing for another. If you don't know which pipe is the problem, you are guessing. And guessing with your legs after 60 is how people end up in a wheelchair years before they had to be. So let's stop guessing. I'm going to walk you through all three. I'll give you the 60-second test to figure out which one is yours. I'll show you the most real first-line treatment that Medicare will actually pay for. And yes, I'll tell you exactly which fruits pull real weight and where the internet has oversold them. Stay with me, because the test in the middle is the thing I'd want my own father to see. Let's start with the pipes going down. The arteries. Your leg arteries are pressure hoses. Your heart pushes oxygen-rich blood through them down to your calves, your feet, your toes, under real force. When those hoses narrow, when decades of cholesterol, blood pressure, and inflammation lay down plaque along the inner wall, less blood reaches the muscle. And a muscle starved of blood does exactly what a starved muscle does. It cramps. This is a condition called Peripheral Artery Disease, or PAD, and it has a signature so specific that I could often spot it from across the room. The pain comes on when you walk, in the calf usually, sometimes the thigh or the buttock. You stop. Within a couple of minutes, standing still, it eases. You walk again, it comes back at about the same distance. Doctors call that intermittent claudication. I call it your muscles sending you a bill for oxygen they didn't get. Now here is the number that should get your attention. The CDC estimates that around 6.5 million American adults over the age of 40 have peripheral artery disease, and a large share of them have no idea because they wrote off the exact symptom I just described as getting older. That is the tragedy of this condition. PAD is not just a leg problem. Those same narrowed arteries are a warning that the arteries feeding your heart and your brain are traveling the same road. People with PAD have a meaningfully higher risk of heart attack and stroke. So when I say pay attention to your legs, I don't only mean for the sake of walking. Your legs are a window into every artery you've got, and that changes the conversation you should be having. If the ankle brachial index confirms narrowed arteries in your legs, that's not only a legs diagnosis, it's a signal that the whole system needs protecting. This is the moment to ask your doctor two specific questions: whether your blood pressure is where it should be for you, and whether a cholesterol-lowering statin makes sense in your situation. Those two questions aren't about your calves at all. They're about the arteries feeding your heart and brain, the ones the leg pain just warned you about. The people who do best with PAD are almost always the ones who treated it as a whole-body wake-up call, not a local ache. Same walk, bigger payoff. Let me tell you about Dale. Dale was 69, a retired mail carrier from Des Moines, Iowa. 30 years on his feet, and then retirement, a recliner, and a habit of blaming everything on his knees. He came in one night convinced he'd pulled something because his right calf seized up every time he walked from the parking lot to the store and let go every time he sat down. That pattern, pain on walking, relief on resting, same distance every time, is arterial until proven otherwise. We check something called his ankle brachial index, and I want you to write that phrase down because it's the single most useful thing in this whole section. The ankle brachial index, or ABI, is about the simplest, cheapest test in all of vascular medicine. A nurse takes the blood pressure in your arm, then the blood pressure at your ankle, and divides one by the other. In a healthy leg, those numbers are close. When the ankle pressure is a lot lower than the arm, it means blood is struggling to get down the leg. The hose is narrowed. No needles, no scan, 10 minutes. If you have that walk-stop-walk pattern I described, the ankle brachial index is the exact test to ask your doctor for by name. Most people have never heard of it, so they never ask, so it never gets done. So they spend 3 years thinking it's their knees. Don't be that person. Ask for the ABI. Now, what do you actually do about narrowed arteries? This is where the standard advice fails people most, and where I need you to hear me clearly. The instinct and the old advice is to rest the leg because walking hurts. That is exactly backward. The single most proven treatment for the leg pain of PAD is not a pill and not a stent. It's walking. Specifically, structured walking that pushes gently into the discomfort. When you make that starved muscle demand blood, your body responds over weeks by building new little detour vessels around the blockage, natural bypasses. Quite literally, new plumbing. The American Heart Association calls supervised walking therapy a first-line treatment for exactly this condition, and the research is remarkably consistent. People who walk in a structured program end up able to walk substantially farther, with less pain than people who rest, or even, in a lot of cases, people who get a procedure. And here is the part that almost nobody knows. So this alone may be worth the whole video. Since 2017, Medicare has covered supervised exercise therapy for symptomatic PAD as a defined benefit. We're talking up to 36 sessions over 12 weeks in a monitored program with a trained professional watching your walking. Most people carrying this diagnosis have never been told the benefit exists. So if you or someone you love has that classic walk and cramp pattern and a confirmed PAD diagnosis, the sentence to bring to your doctor is, "Am I a candidate for supervised exercise therapy? And is it covered?" That is one of the highest value questions in this entire video, and it costs you nothing to ask. The way to do the walking yourself, if a formal program isn't near you, is this. Walk until the cramp comes on and reaches a moderate ache, not agony, a solid ache. Stop. Let it fully settle, usually 2 to 5 minutes, then walk again. Repeat that cycle for about 30 minutes, and here in a car-dependent country where half of us don't have a safe sidewalk, an indoor mall is honestly perfect. Flat, climate-controlled, no ice in winter, benches to rest on. Mall walking is not a joke. For this exact condition, it is close to a prescription. 3 to 5 days a week. Give it 8 to 12 weeks. The improvement is real, and it's earned. Where does food come in for the arteries? Right here, and honestly, in a supporting role. Narrowed arteries depend on a molecule called nitric oxide, which is the signal that tells the vessel wall to relax and open a little wider. As we age, we make less of it, and certain foods genuinely help us make more. Beets and leafy greens are the heavy hitters most people skip. Watermelon earns its reputation here too, because it's loaded with an amino acid your body turns into the raw material for nitric oxide. Pomegranate has decent evidence for the inner lining of the vessels. These are real, but I want to be honest with you, because trust is the only thing I'm selling. No fruit opens a significantly blocked artery. Food is the tailwind. The walking is the engine. Anyone who tells you a cherry cures a blockage is selling you a cherry. Eat the beets and do the walk. All right. Before we go to the veins, this is the part I promised you, the 60-second test you can run tonight at your own kitchen table to figure out which of the three problems is likeliest yours. This is the thing to send to your dad. Test 1. The walking pattern. Does the ache come on when you walk and reliably ease within a few minutes of standing still at about the same distance every time? If yes, that points toward the arteries toward PAD. Arterial pain is a walking pain. Test 2. The elevation test. Sit down and prop your legs up above the level of your heart for a couple of minutes. If the heaviness and aching get better when your legs are up, that points toward the veins. Because you're letting gravity drain the pooled blood, your valves are struggling to move. Venous heaviness feels worse at the end of the day and better when you put your feet up. Flip it around. If raising your legs makes them feel worse or paler or colder, that's the opposite signal. That's the arteries not getting enough flow. And it's a reason to get seen. Test 3. The sock line and the clock. Look at your ankles in the evening. Is there swelling? A puffy indentation where your sock sat, worse than the morning? Swelling that builds through the day and settles overnight is a venous and pump story. And notice the temperature. Are both feet cold or just one? Cold, pale, and especially one leg colder than the other is an artery flag, not a vein flag. 60 seconds. Walking pattern, elevation, and the sock line. It will not diagnose you, only your doctor, and that ankle brachial index can do that. But it will tell you which conversation to walk in and have, and it will tell you tonight whether you're looking at a pipe going down or a pipe coming up. Write down what you notice. That note is worth more at your appointment than any supplement in your cabinet. Now, the pipe's coming back up. The veins. This is a completely different machine, and it fails in a completely different way. Your arteries have muscular walls that push. Your veins don't. The blood in your leg veins has to travel uphill against gravity all the way back to your heart, and it has almost no push of its own. So your veins rely on two things. First, a series of tiny one-way valves, like little swinging doors up the inside of the vein, that let blood move up and then snap shut so it can't fall back down. And second, this is the piece almost nobody teaches, and it's the key to your whole lower body. The pump that drives those veins is your calf muscle. Every time you contract your calf, by walking, by rising on your toes, by even shifting your weight, it squeezes the deep veins like a fist around a tube of toothpaste and pushes that blood up to the next valve. Cardiologists literally call the calf your second heart. Read that again. You have a second heart in each leg, and it only beats when you move. Now you can see the whole failure. After about 60, those one-way valves start to weaken and leak. Think of a screen door with a broken spring. It swings, but it never quite latches. When a valve doesn't close all the way, blood slips backward and pools in the lower leg. That pooling is what venous insufficiency is. And it produces exactly the picture the elevation test finds. Heaviness and aching that's worse at the end of the day. Worse after long standing. Better when you put your feet up, along with swelling, and over years, the ropey, visible varicose veins and skin changes around the ankle. And the calf pump, the second heart, sits idle all day, if you're sitting all day. A weak second heart plus leaky valves is a traffic jam in your lower legs. Carol was 66, a retired schoolteacher from Buffalo, New York, and she was the classic version. Her legs were fine in the morning and felt like sandbags by 3 in the afternoon. Ankles swollen by dinner, sock lines you could read across the room, better by morning after a night lying flat. That day and night rhythm is the fingerprint of a vein problem, and it responds to completely different moves than Dale's arteries did. Does that sound like your legs? Fine in the morning, sandbags by dinner? Then this next part is for you. For veins, the treatment is about helping blood get back up. Gravity is your enemy and your tool. Elevate your legs above your heart for 15 minutes. Twice a day, genuinely above the heart. Lying down with your feet on pillows, not just up on a footstool. Fire the second heart on purpose. Calf raises, even 10 of them at a time by the kitchen counter, several times a day, do more for a venous leg than any fruit on earth. Every hour you're sitting, stand up and pump those calves. And this is where compression stockings, which get dismissed as an old lady thing, are actually excellent medicine. They squeeze the leg from outside and help the valves do their job. Worn correctly, graduated compression is one of the most effective things we have for venous heaviness. Food's supporting role for the veins is real but modest, and it's a different set than the arteries. The compounds that help here are the ones that strengthen and tone the vein wall and the collagen around those valves, the deep purples and reds, dark grapes and their seeds, blueberries, the anthocyanins. Figs bring a flavonoid that eases blood vessel tone and fiber that supports the whole system. These genuinely help the vessel wall hold its shape, but once again, grapes do not close a leaky valve. Say it with me. Food helps. Movement fixes. They support the leg you are also elevating and pumping. The food is real. It is a helper, not a hero. That brings us to the third problem, the one hiding underneath the other two, and the one you have the most direct control over starting tonight, the pump itself and the blood it's trying to move. Remember the second heart, the calf muscle that squeezes your deep veins and drives the blood uphill. Here's the quiet catastrophe of modern retirement. That pump is a muscle, and a muscle you don't use gets weaker and smaller month over month. The medical word is deconditioning. It's not dramatic. That's exactly why it's dangerous. Nobody notices the afternoon they sat a little longer. But string enough of those afternoons together, the recliner, the long TV evenings, the car everywhere because there's no sidewalk, and the second heart in each leg slowly stops beating hard enough to matter. Now the arteries have a harder time, because unused legs signal the body to let those detour vessels wither. And the veins have a harder time, because the pump that was supposed to help the leaky valves has gone quiet. One idle pump makes both of the other two problems worse. That's why the single most powerful thing in this entire video is not a food and not a pill. It's this. Get up and move your calves every single hour you're awake. Set a timer if you have to. 10 calf raises, a lap around the house, a march in place during the commercial. You are not exercising, you are running the pump. There's a second half to the pump problem that almost nobody connects to their legs, and that's the blood itself. Blood that's even mildly thickened moves harder through narrow vessels, and the most common reason older blood gets thick is the most boring one: dehydration. As we age, our sense of thirst genuinely fades, so a lot of seniors walk around a quart low without ever feeling thirsty, and that thicker blood drags through exactly the legs that are already struggling. This is where watermelon earns a real place. It's more than 90% water, so it hydrates and thins the blood at the same time. It delivers the amino acid your arteries use to make nitric oxide. It's doing two jobs at once. So drink. Simple rule. A glass of water with each meal and one between. Treat that as circulation medicine, because it is. And this is the corner where tart cherries actually shine, for a reason that has nothing to do with the fruit lists that overhype them. Tart cherries carry a natural dose of melatonin, and a lot of older adults have blood pressure that spikes in the early morning hours, which grinds on tired vessels night after night. A small glass of tart cherry juice in the evening has been studied for smoothing out that overnight blood pressure rhythm and improving sleep. And better sleep is its own circulation win. So if you're going to pick one fruit for the pump and blood side of this, make it the evening tart cherry, not because it opens an artery, but because it helps the overnight hours be gentler on the legs. Here's a self-monitoring tool to make all of this real. Because a number you can watch is worth 10 resolutions. You can't. Pick a fixed landmark, the mailbox, the third streetlight, a specific store inside the mall. Once a week, at about the same time of day, walk it and notice. Did the ache come on sooner or later than last week? Could you go a little farther before you had to stop? For arterial legs especially, that pain-free walking distance is the exact number your doctor tracks. And watching it climb week by week is how you'll know the pump is waking up and the detour vessels are building. Write it in the same place you wrote your kitchen table test. That little log is you, doing medicine on yourself for free. Now, the veins come with a red flag I need you to lock in, because this is the one that lands people in my ER, and it's the difference between annoying and emergency. Ordinary venous swelling comes on gradually, affects both legs more or less, is soft, and eases overnight. But a blood clot in a deep leg vein, a deep vein thrombosis, a DVT is different, and it's dangerous. According to the CDC, as many as 900,000 Americans are affected by these clots every year, and up to 100,000 die because a clot in the leg can break loose and travel to the lungs. Here's how a DVT announces itself and how it's different from your everyday swelling. It's usually one leg, not both. It comes on over hours to a day or two, not slowly over years. The calf is swollen, warm, red, and painful or tender to squeeze, often after a long stretch of not moving, a long flight, a long car trip, surgery, and illness in bed. New one-sided, warm, painful swelling is not a food problem and not a wait-and-see problem. That is a same-day call to your doctor or a trip to urgent care to get an ultrasound. Today. And there is one more, rarer, that outranks everything else in this video. A leg that suddenly becomes cold, pale, or bluish, numb, and severely painful all at once. That can mean an artery to the leg has abruptly clotted off, and the clock on saving that limb is measured in hours. That is not a call your doctor situation. That is a 911 situation. Don't drive yourself. Don't wait until morning. Don't see if it settles. Call 911. That's the whole triage in one breath. So let me lay the ladder out plainly, because knowing when to do nothing is as important as knowing when to run. If your legs are heavy at the end of the day and better in the morning, or they cramp when you walk and settle when you rest, that is a see your doctor situation, this month and start the walking and the elevation now. Write down the pattern you found in the kitchen table test and bring it. If it's something new, persistent, or clearly getting worse, don't wait for a routine visit. Call your primary care doctor and ask to be seen this week. If a leg is suddenly newly swollen on one side, warm and painful, that's urgent care today, or the ER for an ultrasound to rule out a clot. And if a leg goes suddenly cold, pale, numb, and severely painful, that's 911 right now. I can already hear what some of you are saying because I heard it in the ER every week. An ambulance is expensive. The ER is expensive. I'll just wait and see if it's better in the morning. I understand that fear completely. The bill is real. But the thing I watched happen over and over was people who waited on a cold, painful leg or a hot, swollen calf, and the damage done while they waited cost them far more a limb, a lung, sometimes a life than any visit ever would. When it comes to those two red flags, being checked and sent home is a win, not a waste. Nobody in an emergency room thinks you're wasting their time by taking a suddenly cold or suddenly swollen leg seriously. Let me deal with the objection I can feel coming, because it's the one that keeps people stuck. Some of you are thinking, I'm 74, I've had these legs for years. Isn't it too late to change anything? Here is the honest answer from someone who has watched a lot of legs. It is almost never too late. The new detour arteries your body builds. When you walk into the ache, it builds those at 75 the same way it builds them at 55, just a little slower. The calf pump gets stronger with use at any age. The valves you can't repair with food, but you can absolutely take the load off them with elevation and compression starting tonight. Your body did not stop responding to good inputs the day you turned 70. It's still trying to maintain these legs. Give it the raw materials and the movement, and it will meet you part way. That's not a slogan. That's physiology. So let me fold all of this down into one thing you can actually hold on to, because if you remember nothing else, remember this shape. Heavy legs after 60 are one of three problems. Arteries. Pain when you walk. Relief when you rest. Maybe a cold or pale foot. That one loves structured walking, wants an ankle brachial index test, and may qualify you for supervised exercise therapy that Medicare covers. Veins. Heavy and swollen by evening, better with your feet up by morning. That one loves elevation, calf raises to fire your second heart, and compression stockings. And the pump. The second heart in your calf that only beats when you move, which is why sitting all day makes both of the other two worse. Walking pattern, elevation test, sock line 60 seconds tells you which door you're standing at. Food helps all three a little, movement helps all three a lot, and two patterns, a suddenly hot, swollen, one-sided calf, and a suddenly cold, pale, painful leg skip the kitchen table entirely and go straight to help. Think back to Dale, the mail carrier in Des Moines. He didn't get a pill, and he didn't get a stent. He got the name of the test to ask for, a supervised walking program his Medicare paid for, and 8 weeks of walking into the ache and backing off. Last I heard, he was walking the whole loop of the mall before his wife had finished her coffee. And Carol in Buffalo feet up twice a day, calf raises at the counter, compression stockings she stopped being embarrassed by, had her afternoons back by the end of the summer, ankles she recognized again. Neither of them found a miracle fruit. They found out which pipe was the problem, and they did the boring, repeatable thing that actually fixes that pipe. So here is your one job tonight. Not 10 things. 1. Run the 60-second test walking pattern, feet up, look at your sock line, and write down which of the three it points to. That single note is the beginning of every good conversation you're going to have with your doctor about your legs. It's the difference between walking in and saying, "My legs hurt," which gets you a shrug, and walking in and saying, "The ache comes on at the same distance every time and eases when I stop," which gets you the right test. You are handing your doctor the answer. Most people never do. And if what you find is a suddenly cold leg or a hot, swollen, one-sided calf, you already know that one doesn't wait. If this gave you a way to finally make sense of your own legs, share it with the person you love who's been blaming their knees or resting the legs that need to move. That one share might be the reason they ask for the right test instead of losing another 5 years to "it's just age." I'm Dr. Tom. Your legs are not a lost cause, and it is genuinely never too late to give your second heart a reason to beat. Take care of yourself, run the test tonight, and I'll see you in the next one.